afternoon. How are you?
Damn, is it afternoon already?
Is it not afternoon?
Completely lost track of.
Oh, same.
time.
Let me check on my
Could be
phone.
afternoon.
It is afternoon. It's actually 5 minutes past 1.
All right, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Oh.
So good to be here.
Like-
We had a whole catch up before this.
We spoke about everything.
Yeah. But also mainly how proud I am of
Oh.
you. Not proud, it's more like inspired.
Mm.
But the last time I saw you, well, the last time I saw you was a boiler room. But the last time I properly saw you and had a conversation, you were saying, or just telling me about like what your dreams are for the future or the trajectory of your life. And you're already doing a lot of it, but now it's like concretized into things that you said you wanted to do and you made it happen. And it's just super inspiring.
Oh.
Actually, this podcast today is all about you and your glow up.
No. Today we're actually speaking about you. But firstly, thank you so much for those beautiful words, Megan.
Oh man,
I think,
anytime.
the last time we seen each other, we were sitting on top of a rock.
We were indeed. You made me jump a wall.
You know what's that saying of like, before getting to beautiful places, you have to endure some sort of like mishap. The obstacles, and then you got things like, the wall was actually worth it. Oh,
I'm actually wearing one of my rings. When we jumped that wall, it got hooked on the wall and it like bended a bit, which is like the best thing that could happen. So whenever I wear this, I think of that.
That's crazy.
Day.
Oh,
and how
man.
beautiful it was.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
I have no idea what the intention was, but we're like, we need to just hang out and meet.
Yo. No, I think it was a moment that like we probably didn't know the reason for it at the time to happen, but like I think how it happened was like it was beautiful, and I really like treasure that moment, and like that was such a different time, and like now we're in a different time.
Totally.
Like so many
I think
beautiful.
I almost feel like you need to paint a picture for that space near your home and what it is for people listening that don't know, because I think it's a really special spot. Yeah.
It is a special spot. I feel like I've manifested all the things that that I've ever wanted to achieve this far from that spot, and haven't been there in a while. But every time I visit there, it's always I'm taking out a mate or someone that like I really find important, and we just like share introspect and have those conversations.
But paint a picture of what it looks like. You
want me to paint a picture right now?
Okay, no pressure.
It's like a hill. So Kraaifontein is set up in a very like. Oh, I'm from Kraaifontein for those who don't know.
Here we go. The picture is being painted.
The picture is being painted. I hate that you're actually winning now and like it's about me. But because of the moment and the story, I think it's important that we paint the picture. So I tell Megs tell me rather, yo, let's meet up. I think you wanted to do coffee or something. And I was like, coffee's cool, but like
overrated,
Yeah, like do you want to come to my hood? Then you came. You brought the coffee actually, so it was like a good thing in a way.
I did. Yeah,
you brought the coffee. We had the coffee.
Yeah.
You were first driving in between houses. It's like, okay, this is a very suburban area. Where are you taking me? Are you going to a park? Then I'm like, just park over here, park over there. And then still feel suburban. Like you don't know what to expect. But like as you take up when you take the walk up into the behind the houses, it's like, okay, where's the gate to this place? Actually, there's no gate,
there
Megan.
Isn't. There's no gate.
We actually need to jump a wall. And then you jump the wall, you are hit with such a beautiful space of just like openness, beautiful scenery of vineyard. Vineyard? Is that what it...
Yeah, English is very overrated. Let's say it however we want to.
But besides the beauty that resides there, I think the air and the feeling and and the mental unlock that happens there. I think that I happen to feel this feeling every time I go there, and people that have been there tell me the same. And it's such a beautiful space that I'll hold so dearly to my heart. I haven't been there in a while, but when I do go there, I go there for a purpose and a reason. And flowers to everyone who knows that spot. I don't think a lot of people know that spot, but that's where Meghan and I last seen each other properly.
And sorry, I think the reason I was like honing in on the detail there is because it says so much about you, and it's like a great segue into this conversation.
For sure.
That I think you have this innate thing within you of bringing people together and opening up dialogue and conversation and like learning from one another as humans, not even just within the creative industry or filmmaking space, but just life in general. And I think it's so special and it's so beautiful.
Thank you so much. You're gonna make me cry, bro.
Little violin on my.
You're gonna make me cry, bro. Please.
Someone give me some Kleenex.
You know, Meghan.
Yeah. Okay, let's enough stuffiness.
So enough stuffiness. Actually, let's take it back all the way to the beginning. You come from a household of matriarchs. I think your biggest anchor point is your mom and your grandmother.
Yeah.
Please take me through what it was like in the house growing up.
Yeah.
At this famous block of flats.
I wouldn't say it's famous. It's just like I think your space of upbringing is so important in like who you are as a person, but also the like certain pathways you end up taking in life. Well, for me, the way you grow up fundamentally shapes who you are. So you're so observant. Your questions are so beautiful, by the way. I had a sneak peek at some of the questions today, but I was raised by my mom. I grew up in Wynberg, and we stayed in this massive block of flats with 5 floors, 5 or 6. And I guess that space was super important to me because it was a space with people from all sorts of walks of life, just the most interesting and diverse and different people in one space, which became my community growing up until I was 17. So my family is literally, to me, it's like my immediate family is my mom and my gran. And so this whole space became like the family that raises you, even though it's not biological. And it's this space that formed and built my love for storytelling, I think, because immediately you're in the space with people with different backgrounds and stories, and you're chatting and you're speaking and you're learning all these different things. And I just naturally have always been intrigued by people and learning and wanting to know more. And even my love for film or bodies of like digital media, like I had my best friend growing up next door. Like we would watch Bollywood films, and I was like, this is such a powerful way of telling stories. And then I had like my upstairs neighbor, Loli, like blasting the trompies. And I just had all these different like medias constantly playing around me. Or like I remember one so silly. Like so many memories, but like a vivid memory is we would all, like in our different little apartments, there was like this park outside. So some of the kids would go sit out in the park, and then everyone would blast their music really loudly, like the radio, or like 50 Cent Get Rich CD. And there'd be like this competition of who could play their music the loudest and like which music people were loving the most outside. So just this like beautiful space. But then there's also like, even though you and I were talking about like moments of pure bliss growing up that you can almost not experience today like you used to as a kid. Like there was a lot of that, but then there was also like a lot of trauma that happened for me growing up there, which my escape would be watching film or watching television as an escape. Walking down to a DVD store in Plumstead as much as I could and asking to borrow DVDs and watching
at the time.
Yeah,
so you're describing such a very like colorful like upbringing of so many like diverse conversations, interactions. What outside of like where you were living at, what did Wynberg feel like at the time? Going to school, the friends you had, going to the mall, running errands. Like what did Wynberg feel like at that time?
Compared to like now? Or?
No, I'm not asking for comparison. Like for you specifically.
Oh man, it felt like home. It's also like what I knew growing up. It just felt familiar and it felt like home. And I was there because like that's where my mom worked, and naturally like I went to Wynberg Girls because it was close, and we walked everywhere and like took public transport, and so we stayed where it was easy and where it made sense to be and get around to. But it just felt like home, like a big community, I guess. I'm only like, it's only in my later, I guess, half of my life where I'm still getting used to the whole town thing.
For sure. And it is a lot of...
I'm like in southern suburbs. Human. I didn't really answer the mom and grand thing, but I guess to summarize it, it's just being raised by two incredibly strong humans. I think for any single parent, it's one of the hardest things you can do to raise a lighty with no support. I have so much respect to all single parents out there. And I was like sometimes ping pong between my mom and my gran. Growing up, and my gran is like, a lot of people who follow me know she's like my fucking she's like my OG, she's my bestie, and she's just like got this beautiful balance of being like incredibly crude and strong but really sensitive, and has just always taught me to never take shit from anyone, particularly men. And I think that just I just had this innate thing of like being a fighter and fighting for what's right, and not tolerating violence or people that are perpetuating harm. And I'm so grateful that I have that within me. Yeah, still to this day, if I go visit her, I'm explaining something, she'll just look at me and be like, Meg, no, like, put your goddamn foot down. Like,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Again, violent music plays.
So during that time, you obviously like have so many like interest in digital media. What was the first time, your earliest memory picking up any form of digital media, whether it be a VHS camera, a camera itself? Because I know you take photos and you do video.
Yeah.
Which one found you first?
I think it was actually cell phone. In the days of like Mixit, when you're taking selfies. There's so much power that lies in doing that.
What was your Mixit name? What was your Mixit name?
Oh my gosh, I think it was like Tweety69 or something.
So
no lies, bro. Like Tweety a baddie. Come on now.
Wow, what a time. What a time. Why don't you make your handle that?
Blocked after this. Why did I make my handle? That's an excellent idea. Rebranding. As my Finsta.
As your Finsta. Yo, that would be a cool idea. As you were.
Okay, everyone. So after this podcast, you can find me at Tweety_69.
Yo, rebrand.
You've inspired me. Thanks so much. I love where this is going. But for real, I think it was my cell phone. And also,
is this in high school?
Yeah. Well, I think like end of junior school. I think end of junior school. Yeah. Well, that's when Nixit was like
popular,
fucking exploding. And so I definitely think it was a cell phone. I didn't have fancy equipment around, and so that's the easiest tool that you have at your disposal. I remember, before like then, I remember when I was very small, I got this like small plastic like disposable camera that I remember I got gifted by my mom, and taking pictures on that. And I only remember because I found this camera about 3 years ago in the garage.
Wow.
And I was like, I wonder if there's film in here. Probably not. And there was a roll of film in there. And I had it developed to like try and understand what little Meg was
taking photos of. Yeah.
I'm very concerned. I don't know what was going on there.
Wow.
I was trying to, I don't know what I was actually trying to do, but there were just like 6 pictures of like ducks in a pond. And I was like, yo, bro, move on. You got the picture. Like, your film roll is coming to an end.
Yeah.
And then just like a chair. I was like, ooh, we're getting artistic. We're getting conceptual. I was like, okay. So I think I've always been intrigued by being able to capture things around you. I know it became more of a thing the older I got, where it was like my conduit to capture my own experiences and to document the people I really love around me. It was never a thing of like, this is something I want to do for a career. It was just like more an extension of myself to document experiences around me and to express things that I like didn't have jargon for, especially in terms of like mental health and PTSD. You don't always know how to write about that or to verbalize it, but you can express yourself in other ways. And that's when I like started realizing the power of the medium then.
Now you conclude high school, you're stepping into that conversation that you have with your mom, am I going to tertiary? What were the conversations like at the time? What did you end up studying?
So I didn't study straight after school. I was working like a few different jobs, and I have like a background in NGO work. So I was doing different jobs. I was working for NGOs, but I couldn't study straight away because we all know that shit expensive and incredibly inaccessible. But when I eventually did study, I've always been good at art. Maybe I should have mentioned that was not necessarily photography or digital mediums, although that did have a part in it, but I've always loved art. Like I've always drawn, I've always made marks, I've always like expressed myself in that way. And that largely again is like how I was raised with like my mom. I remember sometimes when I was small, she'd take me to work and like put me under the table, throw a cloth over and put like pens and paper there, like keep busy. So that's always been in me. And I've always been good at art. So I really wanted to study film. It was film or psychology actually. But then I applied to Michaela School of Fine Art and I got a bursary for my first year of studies there. And when I was studying fine art, you have to do electives. And I did social anthropology. And I thought, like, art is this thing I'm really good at, and that's going to be my passion and my love. But I always felt like really out of place in fine art. Like something wasn't clicking.
What was it that made you not feel comfortable or click at the time?
It's gonna sound so mean, and I don't think the space is exclusively that. Obviously, I'm a big believer in art, and it's incredibly powerful and transformative. And I just felt it was quite pretentious when I was studying. And yeah, I think in summary, it didn't feel like wholesome enough for me. But when I started doing like social anthropology, for example, I felt so excited that this whole world of like other learning exists. Academia. But social anthropology, it's like, it's storytelling. It's a study of,
in essence,
people, culture, society, everything that's happening around us. You don't have to study that shit, obviously, because we're doing it on a day-to-day basis. But it clicked for me, and I loved it so much. And that there was more to me than just art, but that art is tied into so many other things. And then I changed degrees, and I did social anthropology and history of art, and I dabbled in other things like history of economics and politics.
So now that we understand the academia aspect of it, Meghan as a person during this time, you were now beginning to fiddle around with cameras even more, rolling around with your friends. You did a lot of work with the Steve Pop guys way before the beautiful work that you've done later on in life, right? Yeah. Take me through those college dorm rooms, figuring out what are we doing, how are we gonna make this thing. Yeah, just take me through that, like where you were still in your raw element of creativity and professionalism and all of this like seriousness wasn't a thing. Not to say that you were serious, but
no, I think I was always, because I was doing freelance work when I was studying.
In the meantime of studying, okay.
Yeah, always. I was always working when I was studying.
In this film space?
Photography mainly, film came later.
Okay.
But I met Mshini I think in 2015 during Fees Must Fall, actually. And then we reconnected a few years later, where I think sometimes you find people and you just understand one another's creative brain. And at that time I was exploring lots of different mediums, within the digital realm, screen recordings on laptops, using free software that you can download on a cell phone, and it has a filter, and it does an interesting thing if you record. Certain things where you can type in a code on a software and it renders that code into an image, for example. I was very into this, how can you create these interesting visual medias with free software and tools available to you. And I remember I met with Steve Pub, and we were just chatting about all of this, and we were like, whoa, let's get together and just, there wasn't an intention to create this finalized product thing, but just to experiment and explore for the track New. And so I went to their dorm room and all my little bits and bobs, and we were just experimenting and exploring and playing. I remember we painted Ayama's skin green, and we created human green screens.
Wow.
Where you can edit out the green and put whatever news multimedia clip you want within that. I don't know, just exploring and playing, and I think that's where a lot of ideas build or develop from, when you experiment a little bit. Sometimes if you stick to set things, you close yourself off to other possibilities or potential projects. That's when I first met them.
Crazy time. Wow.
Always a crazy time.
Always a crazy time. You're in the dorm rooms experimenting, painting each other's arms green. Then the guys go to they moved to Johannesburg permanently, right? Then you do this DJ Lag crazy Adidas piece, which was, I think, around about the time when I first got introduced to your work.
Really?
I think I've been seeing the photography stuff prior, but I just didn't know. But when I saw the Addy, I was like, whoa, she does videos too. And then and then sort of like that became what a domino effect of, like, before we speak about the transition from the new video that you guys did that time into Tough Times, I want to touch on the moments in between. Tell me about that Adidas video and so many Adidas things that followed after that, which was absolutely beautiful. But I want to start genesis to that particular moment.
It's a strong word, Genesis.
The beginning.
Damn. It still feels like surreal when I think of all these things I've been able to do. And also, like, now when I'm talking to you, it's pretty crazy when you look at things in retrospect, where it's like, this little thing happens, and then that one, and then that creates a little dot, and you draw the line, and then it's all these little experiences that make this journey. It's pretty wild. But that DJ Lag piece, it's so hard to think of things chronologically, like how do they happen? So sorry if it's all a bit patchy and all over, I'm jumping a bit. But I was introduced to an agency which is no longer in existence in South Africa, but called And People. And I got to meet someone who I still look up to so much, and that's Ash Ben. And he was working at And People at the time. And I can't remember what it was that led him to reach out to me. Probably one of my little weird projects. Shout out to people who actually see that and see something worth reaching out to.
You know? Yeah.
But they were shooting a music video for DJ Lag, and they asked me to do the behind the scenes for the music video. And because I love, like, I still do in a lot of the work I do, I really love a textural approach to my work. I love it when a piece feels like a collaborative visual diary, where you get individuals who feature in the piece to write on surfaces and then overlaying that or animating like their own handwriting, or having a handy cam that gets passed around and different people can shoot what they're seeing on the set, in addition to the full frame camera, having a point and shoot camera that takes these little BTS memories behind the scenes and speeding those up and making little animation transitions in a piece. So I love things that feel like we've all created this together. Yeah. And also because my brain is just like it's electricity. It's like it loves experimenting with all these different mediums. I can't ever like stick to one. So for that piece, I was so excited.
I can imagine.
Oh my God.
Take me
I used to play it cool. I am no longer playing it cool. I was so like starstruck. Oh, not just by Lag, but by just that I was on the set and seeing, I think it was my first, no, it wasn't my first experience. I used to intern at the camera rental department at Zuti Studios, who are incredible. Such an incredible group of people who run Zuti. So I had seen studio sets then, but I hadn't seen like sets that are external, not in the studio. Where I worked. And I was just like, damn, this is really special. And I feel so honored that I'm here. I didn't care that I was just a little BTS person running around, but I brought as much as I could, and I was shooting stills and getting people to write on the Polaroids and had my little handy cam, and that's all I shot on. I remember I borrowed like a digital camera with this big fancy flash, and I was like, I'm gonna take these like really fancy, high-res flash photos. Like, I'm going to be that bitch. I'm going to do this. And the flash just wasn't working on the shoot. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay, act cool. You know, didn't act cool. I don't know how to act cool. And then I just used like my little point and shoot with the flash. And I was like, oh God, like I'm never these people are never going to ask me to work with them again. I've seriously messed up. So I'm very hard on myself. I'm a bit of a perfectionist.
Not a bit. You are perfectionist.
Yeah, I am. I get quite obsessive.
Yeah.
About any creative project, and yeah, they loved the work. And I just the cool thing about like Ash and Anne people is that they trust young creatives to put their mark onto a piece. They've asked you to do this because of who you are and because of your style. And that is very rare in this industry. And there definitely needs to be more of that. People who see you and trust your vision and let you do you. Yeah. And they loved it. And I was convinced. I was like, this is the last time I'm ever going to work for these people. I've messed up. So I edited the piece, did my thing. I gave them the images and they were like, dude, this is fire. Like, this is amazing. And I was like, nah, they're just saying that because like...
They're trying to be nice.
They're trying to encourage and be nice and you've got this. It's going to be okay.
But when that piece came out, you definitely communicated a message that we've never seen in a long time, especially at the time. It was like, whoa, okay. And Rome was like really taking off at the time. The DJ Lags of the world, like real township guys, but like really now doing it in international merit and aligned with big brands like Adidas. Aside of the music and like the ecosystem that energy carried, that time was a very inspirational time for South African music and for South African youth culture. Amongst that, time moves on a little bit. You're still on Adidas, and I'm assuming you're working with Ashley at the time too for the piece that you did with Mira, Greek God, Luto, Jessica. That was also a moment on its own. And
Jessica, I'm her walking meme. I hope she hears this. But whenever she sees a selfie of me, she like turns it into a meme and just roasts me anyway.
Flowers to Jessica.
Really great dancer based in Cape Town. Always got to plug our follow.
No, definitely. Do your thing.
Jessica Mashaba.
Jessica Mashaba's flowers to them. Take me through that piece. Sorry, I'm just going by piece by piece, moment by moment. Yeah.
Let's do it. But that was all then. And it's like we were saying earlier that you do something in your life, and maybe not always, but sometimes this like, I'm going to sound like ethereal hippie person.
Profound.
But like sometimes you do something and then it like creates ripple effects and it leads on to the next thing, and then it leads on to the next thing, and it starts growing and you're like, whoa, what's going on?
For sure.
But I also need to realize that, it's not always external magical things that play, but like the hard work and so I did that, and then that just led to more projects with and people, because the more you do, then the more it's like the more people trust you and see, okay, they're capable of doing this and this, maybe not that, maybe so we'll do more of this. Just start trusting you more, and then it grows a bit bigger. So that Lead the Change piece with Adidas was about looking at young creatives in Cape Town who are making waves in their respective craft or their respective creative endeavors, and just showing tiny snippets of what it is that they do. So that one was the first project that I did, because usually I would shoot and like creatively direct everything myself. And this was the first piece where we had, the budget was still incredibly tiny. Very tiny.
It's always tiny.
Yeah, but this was like, damn. But because I'm like a perfectionist and I'll try and make anything happen, we like had a tiny little crew and someone, we had a DOP and an editor, and then I directed it, and I was like, oh my gosh, am I directing right now? Wait, hold up. No. It can't be. I'm just pulling all the people together. I'm pulling all the strings together. I'm not directing. Like,
you
surely
are.
not.
You are. It's like a war.
Yeah, it's like a bit surreal, and it's like, or maybe it's imposter syndrome. I don't know, but it's like, what, me? I'm doing that. And then I loved it so much, more because I loved it because you getting to work with all these incredible people, from people who star in the piece to people helping you make it, to the creative directors briefing you and like sharing their thinking and ideas behind this. You just get to interact with all these incredible people, and the kind of cherry on top of the celebration is the final film, where it's almost like a thanks to everyone, like, look what we did. And then more projects came from that.
Yeah, definitely that set the tone. Okay, yeah, no, Megs is definitely an Addy girl. And then boom.
Well, I mean,
You can go.
It's just incredible people working in that space, and then you just start getting more work. But it's not like I set out to
for sure. But I think the turning point happens when you get that call, you on set, you walk away from set, you take it in, you come back, you're like, whoa, did I really get called up for this? And I'm speaking about the Casta Semenya Nike piece.
That was like, I remember when I got asked to do that piece, I was helping on set in Joburg with Paul, who's a director for Vicky Zolo piece, and I got pulled outside to by the producer who said, we've got this mail in, and first I was like, okay, wait, what's going on? What? And then I just burst out crying like a baby.
Oh man.
That's like when all your passions all like come together in one moment, and you're like, no way. And it still feels a bit surreal that happened, but that was super special. It was also one of the first bigger productions I was on. But very, very special piece. Man. I don't want to say one of my favorites because everything is like... Well, okay, not everything, but... but most pieces I try and put like equal amount of love and passion into it, which I think is important.
What was some of the most... What was the highest point of that job? Oh, I don't like saying the word job, but like of that piece. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, so many. But there's one moment I remember where we were walking up the stairs past the stadium seats, Casta and I, and we were just talking about sport. And she was like, "What sport do you do?" And I didn't mean like to come across as any way or anything. I was literally just saying what sport I do. And I was like, I do mixed martial arts and I've been doing it for a while. And she just stopped and she looked at me and she was like, Meghan, I saw my puss clap you one time here. I was like, I would be honored. You can do that if you want to. But just such a beautiful human. Such a funny human. But I think a lot of the time I recently did another sport series for Adidas and Total Sport now, but I think the reason why I also bring that like memory up is I think a lot of the time sport pieces are so inaccessible and
in what way?
And like clinical and almost a lot of sports stars are superheroes. Cassius David is superhero, but what I mean by that is like the pieces will start off with like slow dramatic music and a slow motion shot of sports person looking up into camera, and then they like almost mechanically like perform and run all over the show. And like I think a lot of people who participate in sport but not at a professional level watch these pieces and they're like, damn, I can't do that. Like that's super out of my realm of possibility. And you almost lose the humanness of athletes in those pieces. Who are just, they're humans, and okay, they've worked incredibly hard to get where they are, but you lose that humanistic quality and warmth and like silliness or and I think it's for me and my work is I try to bring that
the human aspect
like
of it
out in pieces, but I'm still feel super honored and grateful that I got to work on that.
Oh man, what changes after that moment?
What changes in terms of?
Career-wise, how you look at film in general, the conversations you're having with yourself, the reassurance you're giving yourself. What changes?
I think it's all iterative. Like if I had to draw a graph and you start like from below and then the line like escalates up. I can't speak for everyone, but for me it's not this like steady line that just keeps going up and up and up. The film industry for me is like a roller coaster, and it's iterative, and that line goes up and down and left and right and then up and down and then drops all the way down. And like I think you can get caught up in the illusion of social media, and you look at all the things people love and share, and then you're like, oh wow, that person is just doing all amazing work, but we share what we love, and it's not always like that. It's like we do projects that are not our passion, but we do because we need to get by and support ourselves financially. And you work on projects that are really difficult, especially when you are sitting confronted with like agencies and client and everyone has differing opinions. It's not this easy utopic journey, but we kind of pick out the projects that meant something to us and mean something to us and that we want to create more of. I think what maybe happens is like the more work you create that you're passionate about, then the more people see that and approach you to do more of that. I'm saying that, but it's actually not always like that. But I think also like for me, it's like a reminder of why I do what I do. Every time I finish a project, it's like, oh, damn, like, this is why I do what I do. And for me, it's not the end goal is not the final product, finished film. Yes, it's definitely important, and that's what we're being asked to deliver.
For sure.
But it's so much more than that. It's about the whole creative process before the like inception of the idea and how you bring that together. The countless meetings that you have with everyone involved, and you know this too as a director, all the conversations you have with your agency, your film production, your crews, those involved in the film. It's that's like so important to me, where you start challenging things, challenging one another, figuring out how you're going to tell this story, what you hope to achieve with this story. Like that's where all the learning happens and where all the hard and difficult work happens. And then you come to set and it's like implement. Set is also hard, but
for
it's
sure.
Like a different.
They say 90% preparation, 10% shooting.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How is that for you? Like,
it's definitely how
the pre-production of
the pre-production is definitely like the biggest mountain, because you're dealing with so much people. I think like project managing so much people can be a daunting task at times. But I also feel like it's important to be in tune with every aspect or, layer that forms part of what the story is or what is expected at hand. I think the biggest challenge is communication and making sure that you understood and you're not coming across less than or more than, it's constantly a test. It never gets easier. It's just how you deal with things that improves in my regard. But pre-production is definitely like the biggest part of it, because like if it's like filmmaking essentially like a war, you need to, well, not a war in terms of like killing people.
Sensitive times.
Sensitive times. Sorry, let me be very careful with how I articulate my words. But it's like a war. You're preparing for war, and you need to make sure all parties involved are prepared to back you, and some may disagree with your views, but there's a team contributive effort. We need to meet in the middle ground, to make this thing work. Which brings me to my next question: how would you then describe your leadership style?
Are we
No.
There's lots of buttons here. When I see your hand go towards one, I'm like, what's gonna happen? Is that when the jingle comes in?
No. Let's jingle. Wait. Let's see if we have a jingle.
Yes.
Wait. I think I might have a jingle.
Please play a jingle. I like that.
I had to bring the jingle.
Let's get rocky up in here.
So
I love that. I love this podcast. Fuck Joe Rogan.
I love you.
Dude, I love you. This is how podcasts should be. I think like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson and all those homies must just go do like a human centipede at home and just like get out of it. Sorry to
those are interesting guys.
I've lost a few followers.
Yo, you'll be going crazy.
Find me at Tweety69.
I'll be looking at your stories and be like, whoa! I'm literally, when people are arguing, I'm like part of the spectators. Oh, she really said that? Yo, but we love that. That's why we follow you.
Thanks. I can just be clear on kind of who you are, and then people know what
for sure.
What they're dealing with.
As you were, how would you describe your leadership style? That's
I wish I could ask other people who have worked with me, what do you think my leadership style is? I don't even know if I would call it a style, but just what feels right to me is that I am definitely more of a listener, and I've probably failed in economics or life orientation, wherever you learned the leadership styles, because I don't know the name of any. But mine is more listening and asking questions and making sure that the process is collaborative and that everyone is. So obviously, as a director, you go in with your vision and how you see this piece coming to fruition, but then I sit with that with crew members, with individuals who star in the piece, and I say, this is my idea. What do you think, or what is the mark you want to bring to this? And then person will be like, oh my gosh, you know what, I'm thinking and I just saw this thing, what about? And then it's like, what interesting, let's definitely do that. So what if we do this idea, and then we do and you build it up
from there
together. I think I'm also, it ties back into think a lot of what I learned from my grand, but also like trauma and PTSD, and if you experience like harm in the world, well, for me, I don't want other people to go through that. And so if things happen in pre-production or on set where someone is perhaps, whether it's agency or client or whoever, is saying something that's harmful or potentially harmful, I will always like try and have a conversation about that. And we definitely have to be careful sometimes, because if it comes across as too aggressive, you start like pushing egos, and it becomes this thing where people can shut off and then nothing happens. But definitely trying to have conversations and being like, okay, but what if also when you say that, like trying to have conversations around as much as possible. Yeah. And then definitely I think it's a responsibility to filmmaking everywhere, but especially in South Africa, it's incredibly inaccessible. And I'm super privileged to be where I am and do what I do, and to, at the risk of sounding like a savior, I'll say it anyway, but because it's my responsibility, is to like open up space as much as you can, and create space for people who might not otherwise have opportunities to enter the space and to experience it and to get careers within the filmmaking industry. I think that's the only way shit will change. Studying film is, I mean, it's one of the most expensive things you can do. And so I think when you are inside the film space already, you already have access to so much, and it's like a responsibility to try and open that up. I don't know what the word is for that. Leadership style. Tweety 69.
Crazy. I think
everything's fine. Like, we're okay. Yeah.
We're okay. So I think I find it really beautiful that as a woman, that obviously you lead with so much consideration, so much sensitivity, care. What are some of the most challenging challenges you find like in the space we occupy? How have you dealt with those challenges? And lastly, what is the message that you would give a young woman out there who aspire to occupy the space you occupy the space you occupy? And
I first of all, I have a friend who's also a producer, Kirby, who put it really beautifully once, who identifies as gender agnostic. So I'm pretty gender agnostic, and although I'm like okay with she and her, I'm pretty like non-binary. I think I feel more like that. But to say that, I think anyone who's not cisgender, cis male, there are a lot more challenges, obviously, in terms of who occupies space of creating certain stories, so sitting on the crew or the creative direction team, as well as the stories themselves, like narratives, queer narratives or narratives about women, for a very long time not being told by those individuals themselves, but by being told by men, and predominantly white men, which is incredibly harmful, because to tell a story that you don't embody or experience yourself, it automatically lends itself to being harmful and creating stereotypes, and creating like a dynamic of power that's been like in the African diaspora for years, like white people telling stories of those who like you shouldn't. And so I think we're definitely not in a space where everything has changed and everything is great. But I think things are slowly starting to shift. And we're seeing more marginalized voices or narratives slowly coming to the center, as well as crews slowly starting to change, but definitely not everywhere. A lot of the times you can, or even if it's not the crew, like looking at the creative team of who's writing certain briefs, you're like, okay, this narrative is great, our crew is great, but then you look at the top dogs or people in charge and it's like, fuck, that's not great. And so I do think there's still a lot that has to change within this industry. And like you say, like how I think however you identify, you started with saying like telling stories with sensitivity or care. I think that should be like everyone, like no matter who you are, it should be leading narratives or sets with care or willingness to learn and understanding and sensitivity, because it is a career that's all about people and humans. Don't know where I was going with that or what the question was, but it
was some of the challenges you faced and the message you have for women who wants to.
I think it's like if I think of some of my own like things that happen, it can be like early memories of if I'm on set and then like I started out wanting to be a DOP, like men on crews coming up to you and being like, oh, let me carry those tracks for you, let me carry that thing for you, and it's like, you're not doing that to other guys on the set, so why are you coming and like being condescending or towards me? Like, I'm good, like I've got this, I've been doing this for a while, but thanks. Or like men coming up to you and being like, sorry, can you just direct me to makeup and wardrobe? And it's like, no, I'm not. Just because I look like this, I'm not. It's
part of wardrobe. Yeah,
I'm not part of wardrobe. That's like like some memories I have starting out when I wanted to be a DOP, and then to now when working as a director. I think that happens a lot is if you are femme identifying or queer identifying, people almost only seek you out or employ you for like Women's Month or Pride. And it's like, we're good at working throughout the year, not just for these two events. But thank you, and rightfully so. Like, but also then it's like men get employed for everything else throughout the year. And also if you, like, now when you get a brief and you work on a project, it's like this hierarchy of client on top, then creative agency, and then film production company. And there are these three separate layers, and the product comes from client, and then agency turns that into a creative idea, and then the film production must implement. So if I have a vision for bringing a narrative to life or to fruition in a certain way that I think is beautiful or fair, then, and let's say I've won this job and I've made my treatment, and now the creative agency sees this and they might be like, oh, okay, I actually agree, that's cool, let's do it that way. But then it gets to client and they're like, no. We're doing it this way, like we originally said, or not at all. And that thing that they say could be something that you don't agree with. And then you sit in this difficult space of, I'm going to say something, but then it could be like, okay, great. So we'll just move on to another director then. Like if you don't want to do this. And that's always a difficult thing to try and like I was saying earlier, to try and have a conversation in a way that's not going to get someone like too pissed off that they just shut down and move on to the next person who's willing to agree on their problematic grief. But try and be smart with how you like have this conversation and be like gentle with it. That happens a lot on like almost every single brief. This thing of needing to have a conversation and agreement with like creative agency and client. Because if you're with a great film production company, they're going to back you. They're going to be like, I've got you. Let's fight for this and do it this way. I hope that's what companies do.
You know?
Yeah. But then there's this like separate tiered layered system where
it's like
needing to negotiate. How do you like? Have you encountered that where you and your crew and anyone involved in making the film, you're pretty clear on how you want the story told, but then someone on top or above that is like, like how do you negotiate that?
I think, like, personally, I haven't gone through it yet.
Yeah.
But I've seen my mentor like get briefs and like, you know, I would be part of like the cusp of like that makes the treatment what it is, and we all agree for like a flow of a particular story, and then client comes back with like a different conversation, and then it repositions everything. I've definitely seen when like producers had to be somewhat of like the talking pillar for the director with the client, and I think having a producer there cancels out a lot of like,
that's so true,
cancels a lot of weight on us as directors, because sometimes we obviously like sensitive creatives ourselves, very sensitive people, you know, and having someone to relay that message for you, maybe in a less dangerous or destructive way, because obviously like we take everything to heart, because nothing is personal, it's never personal, but because like you agree to do something and now the client wants to do something that's not morally correct or is not politically correct. It is kind of like an irking like kind of feeling, but personally I haven't seen it, but I've seen it through like my mentor and like how they gone about like dealing with those situations, and like they always move on to the next director. That's just the fact of the matter. Well, not always, most of the time, you know?
Yeah, because it's a highly competitive space, and you can just hop onto the next person who's maybe not going to be as, in inverted commas, like difficult.
Yeah.
That's what people will say. It's like, they don't see it as trying to have a conversation or, you know, it's
for
like,
sure.
Oh no, like why are you being difficult? Like, and it's like,
then what are we doing here? You know.
And but I think like in general, that for me, it's again, I sound like a broken record, but and it is like having conversations genuinely from a place of like care. For me, I'm never trying to be like, fuck you, how could you, how dare you, and for me it's like, okay, let's like, I wonder like why are you saying that, or what if we did like genuinely trying to like understand.
That's not a, that's a, I'm trying to say, what am I trying to say? I'm saying that's you know, when you're trying to say that it's having the ability to understand is a skill on its own. It's not just something that people like can essentially like just like flick of a finger do. And usually the people who understands and who seeks understanding from others are the most important people, you know. With that being said, like bringing cognizance, like, or bringing the conversation back to your directorial style, or mission with storytelling is focusing on the human aspect.
Because it is. It is. Like, sorry, I'm not saying that, but just getting like, it's all so human.
Yeah.
We're
in the business of human beings.
Yeah.
We in the business of human beings.
All businesses are. Capitalism will get you thinking.
Yeah. But art is
totally
sensitive, like some of my favorite pieces of yours with Matt Binary, Dada Kanyisa, so humanly centric, like very focused on the person themselves. Like I look at those pieces and they showcase the artist's story and also where they're going, and also just like a tiny window of like who they are.
Yeah.
How does those pieces make you feel? Like when you not when you watch them, because I mean,
I'm always watching things so critically. I'm like,
of course, because you're the creator. As an audience, as people that love your work and are a fan of your work, we take it as like, oh my God, like this is such a warm feeling. That warmness that you spoke about earlier. Do you then think that could also become a box?
Like a box in terms of?
Box of, I'm comfortable in doing this. I'm good at doing this.
Yeah, because it's engaging. It's engaging with people. Like,
for sure.
I think also like a challenge of a lot of these like portrait-based pieces are that they're so short. It's like a minute or 2 minutes. I love. I would love to actually work on more like cinematic stylized documentaries. I love I feel like with those pieces you really get to sit with pre-production and all those conversations I mentioned earlier a lot more. But with these like 1 minute pieces, it's like you have 60 seconds. How are we gonna do this? Like how are we because like you were saying earlier, like humans are so complex and layered. You can never do like justice to someone in a minute. But then it's about like, again, those conversations. I mean, like, okay, as an artist, what is the overarching message that you want to convey with your work and what you're trying to achieve? Listening to that and then tying it into the theme of the brief you've been given, and then making sure that you bring that across as succinctly as you can in a minute, and being very specific when it comes to your planning, because oftentimes what can happen is if you're working on like a portrait driven piece is you can go in like shooting way too much and shooting way too much dialogue. You almost think the opposite. You're like, okay, because this is a human-centric portrait piece, I've got to document everything because I want to not skew or distort this person. I'm going to document everything. But then what happens is like you get to the edit and you're needing to almost chop and change and like force certain things into 60 seconds. And you can start like editing. If you've got this long interview, now you got to chop and like split tiny little pieces together to make sense, and it can backfire. So to go in like being very specific from the start and saying, okay, how about this? We start and you're on your bike and we're gonna hear this dialogue from the conversations we've been having, and then this happens where it shows you doing this with your art and the message you're conveying, and then we're gonna end with you in this space with your painting on a message of hope or whatever, where you say, what would you like to say there? Okay, you want to say that. So now already in your pre-production, you're very clear on what the story is going to be, as opposed to in post, having this hour dialogue and you're like, oh, now I have to force snippets together and I have so much footage. How am I gonna? So already creating that with your person from the start.
From the start. Yeah. Tell the people like how is that process like, having to conduct the interviews with your subject?
I think it's like this, like you've done here. So I can tell by your podcast questions that we've hung out before and you're incredibly intuitive and observant and you're a listener, and from the times we've spoken or from what you've seen online, you've been listening and trying to understand like a bit more about this person, and that naturally comes through your questions. Not only that, but not that I've prepared, because I would have gotten way too anxious, but you sent me the questions and you were like, these are not set in stone, but they're anchor points for what we can talk about, because this is fluid and things might come up, and then we
let that
which is what you've been doing, which is amazing. So you're not forcing a certain narrative onto me, but from the conversations we've had, you're conducing little snippets from your understanding, and then asking me, is this right? Like, is this okay? Should we add or change, or it's a the questions are not just your questions, they're interactional.
So in filmmaking, it's the same.
For me, it is the same. For me, it is the same. So the questions will be deduced. If it's interview, like voiceover based piece, that conversation that you're hearing will be deduced from the time we've had hanging out, asking one another questions. And then again, just being transparent about, this is the brief and this is what brand is needing. So we do need to tie it into that. And then being transparent up front. Okay, so from the times we've spoken, these are some of the questions I have that I'd like you to respond to. Are you comfortable with that? And then it's like, don't really want to do that question. Can we change? It's like, cool, yeah, let's change.
For sure.
And when you're doing that interview for the voiceover, again, being specific. So if you know the piece is 60 seconds and you can only fit so much in, if someone responds to something and it's very long and convoluted, I already know sitting there, oh no, I'm going to have to now go into your response and start chopping it up, and that's the last thing I want to do. So I'll say to the person, okay, that's really insightful, and it is. Can you summarize that in one line? And then for a lot of the time, it's like, how do I summarize that? And it's like, I don't know. Let's figure that out together. Okay, fine. We've got our line. Let's put that one in. So that's my approach, is like, through having conversations, like being very specific so that everyone's clear on what's going to be in this piece. Not it comes out and it's like,
what's this? Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. I think that is very, very insightful for anyone who's into documenting or interview based sort of like filmmaking.
Or
any narrative based piece. With that being said, like how does it make you feel where like your emotionally, physically taxing work, beautiful piece resides next to like so much meme culture on Instagram, and it's like, whoa, like I've just watched a Meghan Daniel piece where so much heart was left, and I'm scrolling down and I'm seeing someone getting slapped or people climbing on crates, etc. Like, does that bother you? Like, we live in a world where art is now being considered among so much, not pointlessness, because I mean, memes is not pointless. Memes definitely has its role to play, but like, have you ever thought about that? Like,
so I have a very dark sense of humor, and I can also not take myself too seriously. Like, I'm very much okay with being my own best roaster. So, and specifically when it comes to like internet and meme culture, I don't think we should kink shame or underestimate the power of
very
memes.
Powerful. Very powerful.
They're like, memes are their own like little units of cultural meaning that can be disseminated amongst like-minded people very quickly, and where you can find like fellow community or the opposite, like being challenged, and they're these little units of information that can spark conversation or dialogue or create understanding very quickly without, or where words can be limiting. And I'm in love. I'm obsessed with just meme culture on social media, but it can be harmful and very dangerous. But for me, I mean, whatever. Like if peace has to get lost amongst memes or get turned into one, then I think there's some meaning or something valuable within that. I guess as long as it's not harming anyone involved in the piece. But for me, I think like I know why I'm sharing a piece and what the importance of it is. And if it gets lost on a timeline, then like I still know what that meaning is. Or then like it's just looking at other places where that can be shared. Or I think if it's on social media, it's still reaching like a lot of people, which means the message is being shared. And someone is seeing it. Like I think I can get very existential if I think about change only on like a macro level. You can feel quite small, like I'm not doing enough, or what am I doing in this much grander scheme of things? But like sometimes it can be very small. Like one person can see and they're like, damn, like that's done something to me, or how I'm thinking, or it's reminded me of something, and like that can be enough. So I think you can't escape social media and how fleeting things are, but definitely love me some memes and great challenge videos.
Shout out Shrek. Those who know.
But Sandra is observant of my phase of just sharing very absurd Shrek memes. Nana, who I work with, is also very aware of them. She's the recipient of them. Shrek. Yeah, very niche genre of memes. Gets weird very quickly. Yeah.
Purple skies. Now, that piece is also like up there amongst like so many beautiful pieces that you've shared with us and stories you told like for us, or like, you know, I mean, it's not for us, it's for you, but like essentially like when you share a part of you with people, it becomes part of us too. Such a beautiful piece, dance orientated, free spirited nature. I look at that piece, it reminds me of, what's that band? I just hit a blank.
That's fine.
But it's
the Blade.
Yes. Flowers to them.
Yeah.
Very like Blaze centric, but also in a very like nuanced South African way. The locations, the feeling, the brotherhood, the bond, the carefreeness, and just utter bliss and very like joy, like indescribable joy, a joy that feels nostalgic, a joy that feels home. Take me through the making of that piece, and such a beautiful piece, firstly, and endless flowers. And thank you for sharing that with us. Before you answer,
I don't know, it's weird to say thank you, so I'm not going to, because I'm still weird about everything I create. Thank you, there, I said it. That I think like also context dependent, that was in like lockdown, and I think a lot of us were just craving to create or just be around others with similar passion to create again and do something. And I had known Tofik and Charlton, and we wanted to do something together. Like we just knew we wanted to do something, but we didn't know what. There wasn't a specific thing.
Are these individuals dancers by profession?
They are professional b-boys.
Wow.
They're incredible. And follow them if you don't already. Charlton and Tofik. And we wanted to do something together, but we didn't know what. And then this opportunity came up, and it was like not exactly in the realm of what we wanted to do or who they are. But we spoke about it, and it was like, let's just do it. Let's do something that celebrates the brotherhood of Tovik and Charlton. And they're not biological brothers, but they are incredibly close. They are basically brothers. And so a lot of it, again, was meeting up with them a few times and talking about, like, what are those windows in your life that we could potentially see or look at? What do you do? Where do you hang out? When you dance, when it's not like competitively, where are you dancing? And so again, it's mostly their story, where we try to find a space to bring it to fruition, with a bit of like fiction within it, because that piece also talks about the loss of someone close to you. And I think during lockdown, a lot of people were experiencing that. But not just that, I think we've all experienced loss on some level of like someone close to us. And I guess that's how the piece came together. Again, no one had anything, and we kind of just asked favors and tried to make it happen with the little we had. But again, it's like an example of a project where it's incredibly collaborative, and you're trying to figure out how do we all make this happen together, from the hair color, like the blue and red hair. I was like, I knew I wanted like something interesting, but I didn't know what. And then I was like, okay, if you guys could, like, if you think of any color hair, like, would you be into that? What would it be? And it was like, yes, it would be this, it would be that. And then I went to Marche, Kutsune hair, and we were like, let's do it. And she was keen. Like tiny things like that, to like how they dance and where that is. And even then to crew, like what we shoot on. And I was like, let's shoot on this. And it's like, no, what if we shot on that? Because it will do more to the narrative. Yeah, so just a group of us wanting to desperately do something, and then an opportunity arose, and we like worked it together.
Beautiful piece.
Thanks.
You shot that in Cape Town, right?
Yes.
On a farm?
So we shot part of it at Charlton, well, at Tofik's home, and then some of it close to the ocean, close to where they stay, and then for the more like surreal part of it, it was just this open space of nature. It didn't have to be a particular confined location that you can recognize, but more like an abstract space that conveys like a feeling or mood. Yeah.
You've worked with like artists, you've worked with fine artists, you've worked with musicians, you've worked with dancers. What sort of personality types do you gravitate the most to when you're dealing with so many different like artists across so many different mediums?
I wouldn't say it's a particular kind of personality. I think I'm equally as interested in working with all individuals, no matter what creative craft you do. It's all an expression of something like personal or something of value to you, and in that sense we all can relate to and understand one another. So there's not a particular like I relate to you more or I enjoy this more. I really do enjoy all of it, and not even just like forms of creativity. I think I generally just have a mind that's always hungry to learn, and it's super intrigued by the world. So you could really be doing anything, and I'm curious by that. You can all learn something from someone, no matter what it is that you do. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. I'm bringing it now back to the song New Moment, but now it's Tough Times. In Joburg, another beautiful piece that I think caught me by surprise. It's something that I didn't expect coming, and the rollout was also absolutely amazing. I think it publicized through Days.
It was a Fader.
Fader.
And Boiler Room. Yeah.
Boiler Room publication, which was like such a beautiful respect and homage to the kind of artist Steve Pop are. Tough times. You in Joburg. I think we always speak about me and you, like, oh, how fun Joburg is to film there, how crazy the space is there, how beautiful the people are, and like how, I don't know, creatively enriching it is.
I haven't spent enough time there to be able to say Joburg, because it's not fair. I'm not like from there and haven't been there enough. But from the times I have been there and especially worked there, I definitely think it's a lot more real and raw and what South Africa should be in 2022. Cape Town, we all I know it's a colonial city, but you go to Joburg and you come back to Cape Town and you see it even more clearly. Cape Town is still very clearly divided and segregated, but almost more visibly so because it's so small. You can see it easily and quickly. Whereas I feel like, everywhere in South Africa is there's still violence everywhere. But I think Cape Town particularly, and when I've worked or gone to Joburg, it's definitely a lot more diverse, particularly with crews here. I feel like crews are very insular, and they like echo chambers of the same people sharing the same opportunities and resources with mainly like their friends. It's like a lot of nepotism. But in Joburg, I feel like it's always different crews, diverse crews, new crew members. The hustle's like very real over there. And here it's not that. It's very cliquey. We were talking about that earlier. Like Cape Town just feels, very cliquey and very much like, here's this group and there's that group, and like we don't talk to one another.
Because we in competition, because it's the film space. Like, I'm making it lighthearted, but it's really fucked up.
We were talking about that earlier, where it feels like almost like different. Not all, but some. It almost feels like there's this unspoken thing of like, we're this production company and there are like these other production companies and we're competing and we don't talk to one another. Again, there are like a lot of production companies that are almost like siblings and do share and talk, but a lot don't. And I feel like that's incredibly limiting when, let's say, there's a director that you look up to, but then it almost feels like why are there not more spaces where we can chat to one another about various things we experience within the film industry? I think Girls in Film, the platform organization, is doing like a really great job of that. Like you're doing a great job of that, like creating spaces where people can come together and share experiences or resources, or just say, I did this and it didn't work and I fucked up, and like this is what I did to try and be better, or what did you do to be better? And it's like, okay, like, or like we were saying earlier, like I struggle sometimes with that communication between client and creative and the film production company, and then speaking to other directors and going, hey, when you face that challenge, like, what do you do? Or like, how do you handle that? And then someone says something, it's like, dope, okay, you can do that or approach it this way.
Oh, but for me, it's scary. Like, it's like, I can't really do anything. I can't really do anything. It's like, bro, like, it's almost like you saw me in this like mentality, I can't afford to make a mistake. That's not a really nice place to be in. And because I don't come from a lot and I'm quite like fortunate to be in the position I'm in, it's like it's now even magnified more. It's almost like I'm walking on eggshells in my mind holistically, you know? And it's it's not a fun place to be in, but I find it reassuring when I have conversations like with yourself and like many other like individuals who are directors as well, occupy the space, what you call the film industry in South Africa or Cape Town at large. It's South Africa at large, but in a Cape Town sort of like context. But we're still speaking about tough times. And in Joburg, yes.
Yeah, no, I think again, like, it's weird. It's weird for me to almost sit here and talk about that because, like, even though I'm a director who worked on the piece, it's not like it's the same with Purple Skies. Like, it's not really my story. It's Steve Pup's story. Yeah.
Yo, okay, I'll focus on the things that are your story. So you were telling me like, I think this might have been like the last time we like hung out. You were like, oh my god, and then the Ari couldn't record sound, and we're like, oh fuck, how am I gonna sing this?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, these are things that go wrong that you learn from and you'll never do that again. But also like with that piece, again, we had nothing. Like we had so little, but it was like your story is so important and the narrative you want to get out there is so important. So let's make it happen and do whatever we can to make that happen. And when you don't have a lot and you're scrambling and pulling and like it can get very stressful and overwhelming. It's a lot more difficult when you don't have a lot.
For sure.
And that's one of the things in the chaos of like shooting on the Ari Mini. I forgot, like, this camera doesn't have internal sound recording, you need an external mic. And it's such an obvious thing, but you're so caught up in everything, like almost co-producing with your friend, but not really, but like trying to help out where you can and making sure that this group's okay and they're okay and we've got this sorted and this organized. And don't forget to do that and tell this person that you forget these obvious things. So then we get to the edit and it's a music piece where they're performing.
And there's no playback.
So we literally had to go in frame by frame and like sync sound to that piece. But we got there eventually. Yeah.
Wow. Would you say that was the most challenging process out of that? The making out of that?
No, I think the human aspects are always the most challenging. Totally, definitely.
Takes
the technical things like okay, you have to figure it out. Although it does impact the human story.
For sure.
If you're not syncing properly to your track, which is meaning a lot. But we figured it out eventually. But I definitely think it's always the human components or aspects that are most challenging. Yeah.
What's next for Meghan Daniels?
I don't know.
Long form, maybe?
I feel like I want to work. Okay, so it's hard. Like we all have the dreams and like utopic vision of saying I want to make a short film or a feature, but it's really hard to like do this as a career and support yourself financially as well, and then like because you're hustling as much as you can, you're taking whatever work you can get. And for me still to this day I don't just direct. I'm like not at that point where I can get by with just directing.
You do a lot of post stuff, right?
I will do anything. Like I'll do whatever job I must do. And I'm lucky in that I have different skill sets. I think it's very difficult to just be a director and have a consistent flow of work. But for me, I think once I get to a place that is feeling more stable, then maybe it's like being more disciplined with pockets of time where I can write more. I have a lot of short form scripts that I want to create first as like a testing practice ground and maybe a feature film one day. But I first want to practice with short films, practice writing, practice implementing them, and then like build and hone in on those skills. But it's also just trying to find the time to do that. you've reminded me that I need to get back to developing those little projects. But otherwise, just continuing to do like what I'm doing at the moment. I try not to think too much about the future too much. Otherwise, I get very hard on myself and get existential, and it feels like I'm not doing enough. And so I think I just need to take it day by day.
In what word? How would you describe your contribution to humanity?
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. One word. One word. Any word. It could be any word.
I'm just silly. Silly. I don't know. Not silly. I don't have a word. Sometimes words are
weird. They're
just not enough. Like you can't put it all into
one word.
Yeah.
Maybe I was also being
absurd. I don't know.
I was also being too optimistic in my question.
What would your word be for you?
No, you don't get to flip the script on me.
Of course I do. Absolutely do.
Contribution to humanity. I don't know.
Humanity's fucking massive, bro.
And like we can never change the world. I mean, there are people who could change the world.
Yeah, but that was the thing I was saying earlier. Like, it's so, if you think of creating change on like macro scales, it can get, like, by all means, go for it. And I'm in awe of people who think like that.
Yeah.
But it can be quite crippling sometimes. And then it's just like, what are my immediate spaces where I can do that?
At
home. Like, where, like, look at your immediate spaces.
And it begins with changing your world. And
and your world, being open to, like, being challenged yourself and like sitting with things that people can like face you about or confront you about, and it's like, you're right. Like, I want to sit with this, and I want to like grow from that and learn how to be better. Or I think that's important. Don't know what my word would be.
I also don't know what my word would be. I think as life progresses, we'll probably have those answers as we grow.
Yeah, or not.
Yeah. Or not, and that's okay
fine,
too.
Yeah. I'm gonna get like a word search out, and the first word that I find, it's gonna be that. Sausage.
Sausage.
It's a great word.
Sausage, biscuit, and scissors are the 3 words I can't spell.
Scissors still gets me.
Scissors, I can't spell that word,
and I have a little bit
bro.
of a lisp, so it's like
scissors.
Audio-wise, it's like challenging.
Challenging.
Yeah.
Oh man. But most importantly, thank you for coming today.
Such an honor.
Such a beautiful conversation about like your profession, etc., etc.
So professional.
Like had to celebrate and give you your flowers.
Like on a podcast.
We are in awe of what you do every day. We want you to continue.
Yeah.
We want to see you continue and take it to different paradigms, take us to different countries, and take us to show us different languages, and it's such a beautiful like story to witness and journey to say that, we were actually existing in that time. Meghan Daniels, bro, we grew up on her.
So silly. But I feel first of all, like I'm if anyone that listens to this or whatever, like I am also not, I definitely don't know everything, but I am always here to like try and help or point in the right direction of if anyone ever needs. Again, not that I know everything, or I definitely don't, but I am here to always be like, okay, what about or just putting that out there. And then also, like, I think someone should come in and do a podcast session with you and what you've been up to. because like we started this off with, like it's pretty damn inspiring, and it's been very difficult for me to sit here and not like ask questions back to you. So hopefully that's also next on the agenda.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I know you want to flex on us.
No, I still
give the man flowers.
No. It's still, I don't think I deserve flowers, hey? Not yet.
Bougainvilleas.
What did you say?
Those pink flowers, those bushy flowers.
Flowers make me feel weird, eh? It's like
they do.
It's like a
compliments make you feel weird. Yeah. Or actual flowers.
Actual flowers.
Oh,
too.
right.
Yeah, actual flowers and compliments.
Right. Yeah.
It's been a struggle of mine, but it's a weird one. I don't know.
If you've got hay fever and allergies,
I do.
Then
I have
maybe
allergies.
That could definitely
be
a contributing factor.
I read this quote. I think it said, I can't necessarily pinpoint to what it says, but I'm gonna paraphrase it. But they said like, it's important that you give those flowers that deserve them. And they're also like related to the saying that like your life has been so traumatic that like you never know whenever you might get that opportunity. So I think I spend my life right now making it my responsibility to give the people that gave me inspiration to become what this is. Flowers and celebration. So you essentially form a part of that. And I could never put that thank you into words, but I hope that this conversation carries that virtue of what our friendship is to become. And also, in simple English, that's just what it is. And thank you for coming through today.
Oh, thank you for not just having me, but for creating this space. And that's what all of this is about. Not just film industry, not just creative industry, but like that's what life's about. It's like creating spaces where you acknowledge or like thank people you've learned from, and like giving that back, and like creating this cycle of like just care and compassion. And it's also so important in this industry too, because we all know like what it meant when someone gave us an opportunity or a space, and then to do the same for others. Play your jingle.
Are we leaving with the jingle? What? I didn't even know that jingle was there.
That jingle goes hard.
Yeah,
that jingle goes hard.
Crazy.
Wow. Nothing like a strong electric guitar to get the blood
pumping. Oh my God. And with that, guys, thank you.